Tonight, I'm going to tell you about the most terrifying night of my life. Some people say fear is just a chemical reaction, a trick your mind plays when you're alone in the dark. But after what happened to me inside the Starkweather House, I know better. There are places where fear becomes real, where nightmares claw their way into the waking world. And if you make it out, you'll never sleep the same way again. Welcome to Scary Moo. This is the story of how I survived a night in the most cursed house ever caught on camera. Let's begin with the legend. Starkweather House, a looming Victorian mansion on the outskirts of a forgotten town, has been abandoned for over a century. Locals call it the Devil's Throat because once you step inside, it's like being swallowed by something ancient and hungry. The house was built in 1886 by Elias Starkweather, a railroad tycoon who vanished under suspicious circumstances, along with his wife and 2 children. The only thing left behind was a cryptic message scrawled on the dining room wall, written in what appeared to be blood. "We are not alone." Over the years, every attempt to renovate or sell the house has ended in disaster. Workers suffer grisly accidents, buyers go missing, and even thrill-seekers who dared to spend a single night often emerge traumatized, if they emerge at all. Unexplained fires, sudden deaths, and chilling whispers reported by trespassers have cemented Starkweather House's reputation as the most cursed home in the region. Paranormal researchers, psychics, and even priests have tried to cleanse it, but all fled in terror or refused to speak of what happened inside. I've spent years hunting for real horror, not just stories, places where the veil between our world and something darker is paper thin. So when I got the chance to spend one night inside Starkweather House, I said yes. I'll admit, I thought I was ready. I thought I'd seen it all. But nothing prepared me for what I found inside those rotting walls. I arrived just before sunset. The air around the house felt wrong, thicker, colder, almost electric. No birds sang, and the wind seemed to die as soon as it touched the property line. The front door, swollen from decades of rain and neglect, groaned open as if the house itself was sighing in anticipation. Inside, the darkness was absolute, swallowing the last rays of daylight behind me. The floorboards creaked underfoot, and with every step, I felt the weight of countless eyes watching from the shadows. They say the first thing you notice in a haunted house isn't what you see, it's what you feel. An icy pressure settled on my chest, growing heavier as I moved deeper into the foyer. The air was thick with the stench of rot and something metallic, like old blood. I could hear faint whispers, too low to understand, echoing from the stairwell. At first, I thought it was just the wind, but the voices grew louder, more insistent, as if urging me to turn back. But I pressed on, determined to document everything. I set up my recorder in the dining room, the very spot where Elias Starkweather's message was found. As I adjusted the microphone, a sudden chill swept through the room. The temperature dropped 10 degrees in seconds, and my breath came out in pale, trembling clouds. Then, just as I was about to speak, I heard it. A slow, deliberate knock coming from the far wall. 3 knocks, evenly spaced, echoing through the empty house. My heart raced. I forced myself to investigate, but there was nothing, just peeling wallpaper and black mold creeping across the plaster like veins. The sun vanished completely, plunging the house into darkness. My flashlight barely cut through the gloom. Every shadow seemed to shift, twisting into impossible shapes. As I moved down the hallway, I caught glimpses of movement in the corners of my vision. A pale face staring from the stairwell. A child's silhouette darting behind a door. Each time I turned, there was nothing but emptiness. The history of Starkweather House is filled with tragedy. After Elias vanished, neighbors reported seeing his wife, Margaret, standing at the nursery window, weeping silently. Her children, twin boys, were never found. Some say the family was murdered and a ritual gone wrong. Others claim Elias made a pact with something inhuman, trading his family's souls for wealth and power. Whatever the truth, something evil took root in that house, growing stronger with every passing year. As midnight approached, the true horror began. I was in the library, flipping through a mildewed ledger, when the door slammed shut behind me with a deafening crash. I spun around, heart pounding, but the handle wouldn't budge. The room grew colder, and the faint sound of music drifted through the walls, a music box melody, warped and off-key, echoing from somewhere upstairs. Suddenly, the shelves began to shake. Books tumbled to the floor, pages fluttering like dying birds. I heard footsteps above me, running back and forth in frenzy. A child's laughter followed, shrill and mocking, growing louder and louder until it filled the entire house. I pounded on the door, desperate to escape, but it wouldn't move. Then, the laughter stopped. Complete silence. I pressed my ear to the wood, listening. A whisper, so close it could have been inside my own head. "He's coming." The words burned into my mind like a brand. After what felt like hours, the door finally swung open on its own. The hallway was darker than before, the air thick with the scent of burning hair and sulfur. I staggered out, disoriented, and made my way toward the grand staircase. That's when I saw the first apparition, Margaret Starkweather herself, standing at the top of the stairs, her face twisted in agony. Her eyes were black pits, her mouth stretched open in a silent scream. She raised a trembling hand, pointing directly at me. I froze. She began to glide down the stairs, her feet inches above the steps. Behind her, twin shadows followed, the boys, their faces pale and eyeless, mouths sewn shut with black thread. They reached the landing and the temperature dropped again, so cold my skin burned. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The only sound was the relentless ticking of the grandfather clock in the parlor, growing louder with every second. Margaret spoke, her voice dry and brittle as dead leaves. "You shouldn't have come here." The boys began to weep, blood trickling from their stitched mouths. I stumbled backward, nearly falling, and bolted into the nearest room, the nursery. Inside, the walls were covered in faded drawings, stick figures and crude symbols drawn in what looked like rust. The crib in the corner rocked back and forth, empty except for a pile of old, broken toys. As I stepped closer, the door slammed shut behind me. Something heavy moved in the shadows, circling the room. I heard a low growl, not animal, not human, rising from underneath the crib. The temperature plummeted, my vision blurred. The whispers returned, louder now, chanting in an ancient, guttural language. I pressed myself against the wall, heart hammering in my chest. Then, a cold hand grabbed my ankle, pulling me toward the darkness beneath the crib. I kicked and screamed, but the grip only tightened. Just as I was about to lose consciousness, the chanting stopped. The hand released me. I scrambled to my feet, gasping for air. The room was silent again, but I could feel something watching me, waiting for me to make a mistake. I staggered out of the nursery, desperate to escape. The house seemed to shift around me, hallways stretching impossibly long, doors vanishing as soon as I reached them. Time lost all meaning. At one point, I passed a mirror in the hallway and caught a glimpse of my own face, pale, drenched in sweat, eyes wide with terror. But behind me, in the reflection, stood Elias Starkweather, his face a mask of rage. He reached for me, and the mirror shattered, spraying glass across the floor. By now, it was well past midnight. I was losing my grip. Every room was alive with movement. Shadows crawling along the walls, voices whispering secrets I was never meant to hear. The house was feeding on my fear, growing stronger with every beat of my heart. In the parlor, I found the source of the ticking, the grandfather clock, its hands spinning wildly. As I stared, the room filled with the sound of dozens of footsteps circling me. Invisible hands clawed at my back, icy breath on the nape of my neck. I felt something sharp drag across my arm, leaving a thin line of blood. The pain was real. The fear was real. I tried to remind myself this was just a haunted house, just old wood and shadows. But then I heard it, the sound of Elias's voice, deep and guttural, echoing through the house. "You belong to me now." The walls began to bleed, dark red rivulets seeping from every crack. The floorboards warped and twisted, threatening to swallow me whole. Desperate, I ran to the front door. But it was gone. Only a blank wall remained where the exit should have been. The house had sealed itself, trapping me inside. I was alone, completely at the mercy of whatever lived within those walls. That's when I made a terrible mistake. I called out, begging for mercy, pleading with the spirits to let me go. But my words only made them stronger. The laughter returned, louder than ever, echoing through the house like a chorus of the damned. Faces pressed against the windows, twisted and screaming, eyes filled with hatred. I collapsed in the hallway, sobbing, as the temperature dropped even further. Frost formed on the walls, my breath came out in ragged clouds. I could hear something massive moving in the basement, dragging itself up the stairs, each step shaking the entire house. The whispers grew into screams, voices overlapping in a cacophony of rage and despair. I covered my ears, but the noise only grew louder. The house was alive with suffering, every wall pulsing with centuries of pain. Suddenly, the lights blazed on, every bulb burning white hot. The room filled with blinding light, and for a moment, I saw them all, the Starkweather family, the lost souls, the things that crawled in the darkness. They reached for me, faces twisted in agony, begging to be free. And then, just as quickly, the lights went out. Silence. I was alone again, kneeling in the darkness, heart pounding in my chest. Somehow, I found the strength to move. I stumbled through the pitch-black halls, guided only by instinct and desperation. I whispered apologies, promises never to return, anything to appease the things that haunted the house. Finally, as dawn broke, I found myself at the back door. It was open, swinging gently in the morning breeze. I stepped outside, collapsing onto the cold, wet grass. The sun was rising, but the shadows of the house stretched long and black across the lawn. I survived the night, but I didn't leave alone. The nightmares followed me, whispering in the dark, reminding me every night of what I saw inside Starkweather House. I still hear the music box, still see Margaret's face in every mirror, still feel Elias's rage burning in the back of my mind. The house is still there, waiting for its next victim. The locals avoid it, but sometimes, on moonless nights, you can hear the laughter of children, the weeping of a mother, and the furious footsteps of a man who traded everything for power. If you ever find yourself near Starkweather House, don't go inside. Don't listen to the whispers. Some doors should never be opened, and some houses are hungry for more than just your fear. If you enjoyed this nightmare tale and want more true horror stories, subscribe to Scary Moo. Turn on notifications so you never miss a nightmarish upload. And remember, sometimes the most terrifying things are waiting just across the threshold. Sleep tight, if you can.